Hello, it's been a while. Welcome to the Sunday Scoop, a monthly video series we're starting where we'll chat with the team and walk you through what we've been working on. Since our launch, we've been pretty quiet, but we haven't been idle. We've been hard at work maintaining and improving the existing features, and more importantly, laying the foundation for some exciting new developments in the Sunday ecosystem. Now, we feel like we've made enough progress to start sharing some of that with you. Each month, we'll choose a few of these things, and we'll give you a deeper insight into them. This will come in the form of demos or discussions or interviews with the team members working on them. This month, we'll talk about three main topics. First, Calvin, who many of you know, will talk about our new UI that we're building. Second, I'll talk about Sunday yield farming, a little bit of a retrospective and a what's next. And then finally, we'll give you a demo of the new Sunday governance portal. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is our new UI. And to do that, I have Calvin here, one of our new hires on the UI team. Calvin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Pi. Yeah, my name's Calvin. One of the co-founders at AdaHandle. Yeah, I joined Sunday Swap back at the end of April. And that was kind of just a decision mainly to, one, I love crypto. Especially DEXs are kind of a huge part of crypto right now in the DeFi ecosystem. And at the time I was pretty burnt out at my normal Web2 job. I wasn't actually completely in crypto when I was working at AdaHandle. And that was actually a side project of mine. So joining Sunday Swap was kind of like my decision to break into crypto full time. And it made the most sense for me.
Awesome. And so I know that, we had already started this when you joined, but can you talk a bit about why we're building a new UI and, why not just kind of incrementally improve the existing UI?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that's the choice that every engineering team has to make after they get past the initial launch of a project. And I think the version 1 of Sunday Swap, there was a lot of thought went into building the platform and in the design, but I think the team drew heavily from existing products like Uniswap or whatever was already out there. There's kind of already this foundational UI that people were used to. And so when you're building kind of a beta project, it's like, why mess with what you know is working and just put something out there that actually proves the value of your product. I know that after launch, there was a lot of feedback from the community. And so we started just thinking about, what Sunday Swap would look like rethought from the ground up. And that kind of coincided perfectly when I joined the team. And so I could kind of bring a fresh perspective into that conversation, not having been a part of the original build. Kind of like at the beginning, we tried to implement that feedback piece by piece on the version 1. But it kind of proved difficult with some of the technical debt that had been accumulated from building and getting to launch in that startup phase. So we kind of just decided to start from a new platform from the ground up and rebuild the things that needed to be rebuilded and reuse the things that we could.
Awesome. Well, why don't we show it off? So the first thing I want to show off is our UI. So let's give a bit of a demo of that. So the first thing I want to emphasize is as we walk through this, a lot of it is going to be mock data. Some of it's wired up to real data, but the vast majority of it is mock data so that we can kind of develop quickly and iterate quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my wallet. This is an experience that is probably familiar to many of you. And this is the page that we land on. Calvin, tell me a bit about this page.
Yeah, so this page is kind of your dashboard. It's kind of the home base when you're on the DEX. You can tell right off the bat that it's kind of got a portfolio vibe, and that's obviously by intent. A lot of the feedback that we got from people is that what traders care about most is having a visual of their past performance, their balance over time. And so we kind of tried to create this homepage to kind of implement those things that people care about most. A lot of things that we want to incorporate into this page is things like your fees earned, yield farming, and even impermanent loss information that usually is kind of abstracted into away from the user being able to really parse through it.
Yeah, so I imagine this page will be jam-packed with useful information for people.
Yeah.
The next page that I want to show is maybe the liquidity overview. So this kind of looks like our homepage, but tell us a bit about this site.
Yeah, so this just acts like the library for all the pools on the DEX protocol. So you'll be able to see, like, with each pool, you can expand it to see more information and be able to quickly interact with those pools with common actions. Another cool feature is that you can sort each pool by the metrics in this table, and so that just offers a nice way to be able to kind of compare pools with each other and also find ones with information that you find most valuable at the time.
Yeah, awesome. And then the last page maybe we'll show off is the orders page. So this probably looks familiar, but I think we've spruced it up a bit. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's very similar to what's there right now. Probably the most useful things are like things like this, where you get more information when you expand out a row. Another thing is you can load more, so that kind of allows you to go through the full history of your interaction with the protocol, and it kind of helps you find things that are important. Another thing is you still get the sorting feature, same functionality as the liquidity protocol, and then in the future we'll be able to make it easier to search through your past orders as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's all really cool. So the last thing I want to talk about with this UI rewrite is we've been really focusing on two things. Internally, we've been calling them the UI Toolkit and the Sundae SDK. Can you talk a bit more about those two things?
Yeah, so I think, when we came into this with the idea of like rebuilding things from scratch, another thing that was really important on our radar was being able to extend functionality and the user experience of the DEX across other products like governance or any other thing that we might want to build in the future that sits kind of on top of the protocol layer. And so that was kind of like the purpose of the UI Toolkit. Essentially what it is an internal component library that we can use across multiple different contexts. And, having something like that also allows us to open up access to that to certain trusted partners, because you actually get access to the branding and the design of the protocol. And of course, we want to protect against scammers being able to utilize that. So it's not open source, but being able to create a UI toolkit that other partners can then integrate as needed, it allows them to put things like embedded widgets into their site. And that's actually something as well that brings up the other thing that we're building, which is the DEX SDK. And that's kind of an open source, will be open source at some point, where anybody in the community, any partner can actually take the functionality of the Sundae Swap protocol and implement those transactions on the client side. So for instance, if somebody wanted to do an embeddable widget, they could also sign and submit those transactions directly from their website.
Yeah, and I'm sure the community will come up with tons of really creative uses for that. It's also a really important step in the decentralization of the Sundae Swap protocol, because it means that there are other integrations and other on-ramps for interacting with the protocol beyond just our site. So that's really exciting. Next, let's talk about yield farming. So when we launched in late January, we launched with a 6-month Sundae token yield farming incentive program. And that came to a conclusion on July 19th. I thought this would be a good venue to reflect and talk about the future of that program. First, I should emphasize the DEX itself and the Sundae pool continue to operate as normal. You can still provide liquidity, you can still swap, and it's still earning the 0.3% fee on every trade. We couldn't stop it if we wanted to. That's the point of being a decentralized exchange. Also, there are still several ongoing yield farming programs, such as Clap, WMT, Endmaker, and Yummy, with more launching soon. Now let's talk about some exciting highlights from the program. I've got some cool statistics to share with you. Over the span of 6 months, we saw 71,000 distinct lockup events for the Sundae ADA, or the Sundae yield farming program, across 25,000 distinct wallets. So far, 81 million Sundae has matured, with about 5 million set to mature over the next 30 days. We've paid out 57 million Sundae, with another 24 Sundae ready to be claimed. And any tokens that aren't mature, that kind of are forfeited by early unlocks, those will go back to the community supply, and the community can vote on what happens to those. So that the yield farming program plus the ISO has led to fantastic market penetration. According to cexplorer.io, there are 83,000 distinct wallets that hold the Sundae token, and we're second only to the Hosky token. And that doesn't even factor in liquidity providers or people still doing yield farming. The reason this is important is because the Sundae token is a voting token in our governance solution. And so having a diverse and well spread out population for that is really important to the health of the protocol in the long run. However, as successful as the Sundae yield farming program was, getting there was quite a bumpy ride. We made a number of mistakes along the way, and we want to own up to these and talk about what changes we're making to avoid these kinds of mistakes in the future. So the first big mistake was that the implementation was very rushed. We realized right before launch that we weren't going to be able to finish the taste test in time, and we didn't want to launch the DEX bare. We wanted to launch it with kind of something above and beyond that was exciting for users. And so we implemented yield farming. But this initial implementation, for example, didn't include the rewards payout feature. We kind of assumed that in the first 30 days, while people's rewards were maturing, we could finish that and have things in place in time. And that turned out not to be the case. So going forward, we're really focused on not releasing features unless they're finished and usable end to end. This doesn't mean it needs all the bells and whistles, but it does need to meet the need it was designed for from day one. The second big mistake was that our initial payout design for paying out the rewards is a collaborative process. And this process was one that we hadn't tested. So the idea was you sign the transaction to unlock your LP tokens, and we sign the transaction to give out the Sundae rewards. In principle, this is very clean, it's nice and atomic, it's rollback safe, all kinds of really great properties, but it turns out that really subtle differences in serialization led to this feature kind of not working at first. The front end would serialize it differently than the back end, and so the signatures that they would provide would be invalid. And so we had to rush out a kind of different solution where we paid you rewards directly, and this was fairly brittle, and it took a long time, and it was frustrating for us and for users. We paid for that out of pocket, and it cost us 1.65 ADA for every kind of set of rewards we paid out, but it was really important for us to make sure that our community was getting the rewards they had earned. So to avoid things like this in the future, our planning process now focuses on what's called the walking skeleton. So this is even pre-MVP, identifying all of the features that integrate with some third-party system or rely on something new that we haven't done before. These kind of key pieces that are big question marks that we need to prove before we can kind of confidently predict the timeline for a given project. And so doing this really helps us kind of remove those unknowns as part of the planning process. The next big mistake was that we kind of allowed yield farming to fall onto the shoulders of just one engineer, and they were kind of largely working in a silo. So while other engineers worked on the UI or bug fixes in our stats or on the Scooper software, all kind of yield farming tasks fell on this one engineer. This led to kind of an increasing sense of burnout and a lack of knowledge in the rest of the team for how yield farming worked. And so when something went wrong, it was really hard for the rest of the team to kind of pitch in and help, or if that engineer wasn't available, for example. So to defend against this going forward, we've instituted regular knowledge sharing sessions for different pieces of the system. And when we're assigning work and we're kind of splitting up the user stories, we try to make sure that no one person gets overburdened on a particular topic. The final big mistake that we made was kind of having a lack of observability and debugging in the system, and this caused us to underestimate the impact of some features or some bugs. So, for example, in particular, there was a fairly long stretch of time where many people were unable to unlock or harvest their rewards. In terms of percentage of our community, it impacted a small amount of people, but over time, this small percentage added up each day to actually be fairly significant, and we didn't have the tools to tell us that. We saw people continuing to unlock, and when we evaluated it, it was only impacting a small number of people. And so while we were working on trying to fix it, we weren't bringing in extra engineers to try to help and kind of get new eyes on it. And really, at the end of the day, one increasingly burnt out engineer wasn't going to be enough to solve what turned out to be a really subtle and complex bug that was at the interplay of a bunch of different systems. So to avoid this in the future, we've built a kind of rich set of administrative tools for understanding and querying the blockchain and seeing the current state of the system. We've given our community moderators access to that, so when they're helping triage issues, they have this really powerful set of tools for understanding exactly what kind of may be the problem. And in our Discord, we've instituted a new ticketing system that lets us give each person one-on-one access and gives us really hard numbers about how widespread an issue is. Because before it was kind of a couple people complaining in Discord, and we just, while we empathized and while we were working on it, we didn't realize kind of how widespread it was. And that was definitely a mistake on our part. So we know that these issues have been frustrating or even scary at times, and we wanted to sincerely apologize for that. And I hope that by laying out our mistakes, taking responsibility for them, and showing you what changes we're making to avoid them, it really shows that we're committed to doing better in the future. All that being said, what's next for the Sunday Yield Farming program? For the most part, that's up to you, the community. So this will be a great time to transition and segue into talking about our governance portal. Long term, we picture governance of the Sunday DAO consisting of three main things. First, a platform for discussion where community members can propose or debate upcoming decisions. Second, a secure, decentralized Layer 2 solution that can be used for important but non-critical decisions like statements from the community, off-chain feature requests, and small budgetary spending items. Finally, for the most critical decisions like protocol upgrades, we envision those being handled completely on-chain, powered by a smart contract. The first is already satisfied by our discourse, where many community members have already proposed and discussed many interesting ideas. The third, in the future, will be powered by Agora, the liquid open source governance platform. So today we're going to talk about the second. We had a number of goals when designing this system. First, obviously, we want it to be secure and tamper resistant so that you can have confidence in the outcomes of the votes that happen. Second, we wanted to enable third-party auditing so that it wasn't just us attesting to the results, but other members of the community could provide input and increase that confidence further. Third, we wanted to foster greater participation by making it entirely free, no Cardano transaction fees. This is where the Layer 2 solution part of it comes in. And then finally, we wanted it to be modular and flexible so that other projects launching in the Cardano community who have their own governance needs can leverage this battle-hardened solution that we've built. So let's show you what we've built so far. What you see here is the SundaySwap governance portal as it currently exists. On the homepage, we list the ongoing and any recently completed proposals. And you can click into these to get more details. So for example, right now, there are 2 ongoing votes, one for strawberry being the best ice cream flavor, and one for gummy worms being the best ice cream topping. And you can click into them to see more details, a description of the proposal, and if the proposal has completed, the final result. Now, I like strawberry, but it's not the best flavor in my opinion. So let's go ahead and create our own proposal. I'm going to connect my wallet and click Create Proposal. And personally, my favorite is raspberry. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this new proposal. Now this pops up a screen in Eternal for me to sign this proposal. This isn't a transaction, right? There's no transaction fee here. It's just asking you to use your private keys to prove that you are the one authoring this proposal. And success. So if we go back to the homepage, we see that that's listed there. And obviously I want to vote for my own proposal. So let's go there and cast your vote. I can attach an optional comment if I'm a kind of important member of the community and I want to justify my vote or something along those lines. And so I'm going to say raspberry for life. So I'm going to go ahead and vote now. And again, this pops up asking me to sign this vote. And there's no transaction fee. So you can vote for free, you can change your vote at no cost, and we hope that this encourages much greater participation. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this transaction, and I cast my vote. Now, like I said, strawberry is great, but it's not the best. So I'm going to go and vote for this, but I can't remember if I already voted. So I'm going to go ahead and check my vote. And this will be used to download the data of your vote, but we don't want to expose that to the world until the vote has concluded. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that also asks me to sign this request to prove that I'm allowed to access this data. So I'm going to go ahead and sign that, and it says I haven't voted yet. So I'm going to, let's cast my vote for no, vote now. Successfully cast my vote, and when I check my vote, I see that it successfully recorded that it voted no. But these are just stored on SundaeSwap's server. So how do we build in more guarantee of these results? We'll release a different video that goes more into this in technical depth. But the basic idea is that we publish a summary of these, a commitment on-chain. So I've prepared something like that for a previous vote that I did. So for example, here is the on-chain testnet attestation of a new governance proposal. You can see the hash, the vote start, vote end, the title of it. More information will get included as we kind of build out the protocol. And then on a regular basis, a summary of the votes that have been cast gets published on chain as well. So you can see this is a given tally. So it's for that same proposal that we were just looking at. The hash of all the votes is included, and also some basic statistics about how well the vote is going, how many votes, how many people have participated, that kind of thing. So we still have a few things left to build, largely around the third-party auditing features that I mentioned earlier, but we hope that that whet your appetite a little bit. We plan to host a big vote on the testnet once it's ready, so stay tuned for more information. If you'd like to partner with us, either as a third-party auditor for some of these votes, or as an early adopter of this platform for your own communities, send us an email at contact@sundaeswap.finance. And that concludes our first monthly Sunday Scoop. We hope you enjoyed the content, and we'll be back next month with more.